All right. Hello. Today we are going over some of the new Spider-Man cards. It's a bit of a fiasco. We've got digital versions and then paper versions. I know it's confusing. Bear with me. What I chose to do is use the digital versions because I assume primarily people that are watching like a YouTube video about a new Magic set, are probably engaging with it online. Um, but I'm gonna do my best to remember to say the real name of the card. So if you are someone that only plays paper, you can write it down or take the note of what it is. Um, but yeah, it's awkward. It's not great. I don't love it. I kind of hate it. I'm sure we're all in the same boat. Regardless of all that, let's get into it. I'm going to start with the Mythics and just go over some of the cards that I think are decent, what they do. Um, I primarily care about like Standard and Pioneer. Kind of been off Standard recently, so we'll see. But I'll try to just give my overall thoughts because I do think there's a lot of power in this set, sort of in a scary way, where like do we have more VVs? There's even a card in the set that I will get to that seems like it could be good with VV. But yeah, let's start with White Mythics. We've got Surus, who is. Let me find it over here. This is Peter Parker. So this is Spider-Man. On the front, you get a 2-mana 0/1. When it enters, you get a 2/1 Reach, which is a spider. That is obviously relevant. And one of the interesting things about this cycle of Mythics is you can flip it. You can flip them while they're in play, and then you can also cast the back half. So they're sort of like modal transform cards, which I think is going to be really powerful. You sort of I don't want to say you end up with a card that has 3 modes, but you kind of do, right? Because the front half has what it is, and then it gets to transform. And then you can also just play it when you have the mana. So these cards look powerful. You get a lot of stuff. So yeah, let's go over it. So for starters, 2/1 Reach is like pretty good, but these like 2 drops that have an enters value trigger kind of seems like things like that have been passed by because the things that go on in Standard, specifically 3-year Standard, are so powerful. This is the type of card that I would love to be good. It's really cool, but let's get into the back half because that will have things make more sense. So you get a 4-mana 4/4 Vigilance Reach. Each legendary spell that you cast, each legendary spell you cast that's 1 or more colors has in Web, which I think is Web Sling. I hope. Which means that you can bounce a tapped creature to cast it. So if I have an Atraxa, which isn't legal in Standard, but you can imagine just getting to cast an Atraxa for 3 mana by picking up one of your tapped creatures, which is very powerful. So this thing, it just does a lot. It's a relatively powerful ability. I could see this showing up in like Coma decks. Sometimes you end up with like a Valgavoth in your deck that you're tutoring for, because you want to put it into play with Coma. And this is another way to enable that type of thing. But yeah, when you consider all the stats, all the value, the fact that it flips, and a card that I'll try not to bring up too many times, but I do want to talk about is Starting Town, where like you can just play this in your white-green or white-blue deck, and then you can have 4 Starting Towns in your mana base, and you're just going to be able to flip it whenever you have a Starting Town. So that's pretty appealing. There's also a new land that's sort of like a Shockland Fabled Passage type thing. So yeah, all of these sort of flip cards look relatively strong to me. This one's pretty exciting, pretty simple, straightforward, but also powerful. So it can be blinked, it can be picked up with Pixie, you can do all sorts of stuff with it. Maybe I spent too much time on this card, but I think I got across a lot of sort of key points about these transform sort of modal double face cards. Next we have Verilax. So this is Anti-Venom Horrifying Healer. So 5 mana, 5/5, all white mana. When it enters, if you cast it, return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then if it would take damage, prevent the damage, it gets that many +1/+1 counters. So I think this is Phyrexian Vindicator, minus the flying. But yeah, so there's some ways to curve into this. I think it's called Collector's Vault. This is the 2-mana artifact where you pay 2, you loot, you make a treasure. So maybe you play out some weird mono white deck where you play Collector Vault on 2, activate it, discard your Valgavoth, play this on 4, get back your Valgavoth. they can't answer the Valgavoth, they lose. Even if they do answer the Valgavoth, now they have to deal with this 5/5. For the most part, I don't think this card is going to be super competitive. But the other note I want to make about it is how good the mana is for white, red, and white, black. You have fast land, shockland, shockland, verge, and yeah, I guess you just have every good dual land in the format in addition to starting town. So you could very easily have a 2-color deck that still can cast a 5 white pip, 5-drop. So that's something to look out for if you do want to play with this card. Consider adding black or red to your deck depending on what you want to do. Next, we have Gobin Gene Splice Savant, which I think is the Green Goblin. I don't know its actual name. Okay, Norman Osborn. So this is a 2-mana 1/1 human scientist villain. Can't be blocked. When it deals combat damage to a player, it connives. So for starters, I don't know if a card like this has ever existed. Like, this is a pretty decent rate where you get to loot and your thing gets more threatening. It does more damage. So that, like, cards like this typically aren't actually good. But it's appealing. It's interesting. Like, you can attack with this, make it 2 power, discard your VV, Cauldron, blah, blah, blah. Do all that BS. And then it does grow itself more. But yeah, just keep in mind, you get all this extra stuff on the back and the modality of it. So we have Fleam Gobin's Creation. I don't know what that is. But it is a goblin human villain. Flying Menace, spells you cast from your graveyard cost 2 less, which is pretty exciting. There's a lot of different ways to use that. And then each non-land card in your graveyard has Mayhem. The Mayhem cost is equal to its mana cost. So I believe Mayhem is if you've discarded this turn, then your cards get Mayhem. So if you want to cast a stock up from your graveyard for 1 mana, that's a really big deal. That is very strong. So this card looks very powerful. Like, the front looks pretty reasonable. The back looks like something that maybe is worth doing. But again, the power level of 3 standard is so unbelievably high. Like, maybe some of these things don't make the cut. But yeah, you could put this in your Cauldron deck. You play Starting Town. Is it better than Fear of Missing Out? Definitely not. But it can do some other interesting things. So again, I think it's not the most exciting answer, but I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about some of these modal cards just because you get so much flexibility in terms of the options they present. So next, we've got Imposter Syndrome. This is the meme card. It's called Imposter Syndrome in both versions. This card probably is not playable. Whenever a non-token creature you control deals combat damage, create a copy of it. Except that isn't legendary. Okay, yeah. I think that's a more casual card. Okay, next we have Egrix. So that is Gwenum Remorseless. So you get a 5-mana 4/4 Death Touch lifelink. Pretty good stuff. When it attacks until the end of turn, you may look at your top card. Look at the top card of your library. Any time you can play it from the top. If you cast it, you pay life instead. So this is Bolas's Citadel, right? But you have to attack. I cannot imagine that this is a playable card. It's cool. It's going to annihilate people in Limited. Maybe there's something you could do with it. But it's just going to end up dying a lot of the time. Maybe if you can give it haste. But it seems like a card you probably should not be putting in your decks unless you're just trying to have a good time. Next, we have Hex of Underdeath, which is... I keep missing stuff, sorry. Behold the Sinister 6. Return 6 target creature cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, this card is interesting because it's so clearly powerful if you do that. If you get 6 things, but how often is that going to happen? How often are you getting 6? How often is this better than just putting Zombify in your deck? And I think the answer is not really much. Not very often. It's a really exciting card. Honestly, a card I might end up trying just because it seems sweet. It will probably feel very good to reanimate 6 different things. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some fancy nonsense going on. But I think this is an old standards card where if things were slower and less efficient and we didn't have Spell Pierce and a bunch of very Legacy-esque power level cards in standard all the time, maybe you could do this. But yeah, The Graveyard Hate's good too. Sweet card though. And it has Lily on it, I guess. I have no idea what the flavor of this is. Maybe this is Innistrad. I don't really know. All right, the Terminus of Return, which is, I think it's the Soul Stone. I don't need to look this up, right? Yes, it's the Soul Stone. So you get an indestructible mana rock for 2 mana without a downside, which is pretty impressive. So we've got Soul Artifact, we've got the Glyph, which is in Standard. There's ways to make this a creature and just beat down. The other thing you can do is cast cards with your mana. You ramp. You play Shieldred. Mono Black Devotion comes to mind. This is a card that increases your devotion and ramps you into your Grey Merchant or whatever. And then it just has positive text. I really hate this card. I don't like this. I guess. Okay, let me think about that. Probably shouldn't be pondering my thoughts in the middle of a video, but I think I just like, it feels like they decided they were gonna make Marvel Stones and they wanted them to be really good. So this thing's sort of just all upside. It's going to be $1 million. Maybe it's not actually that good in Standard, but like it's indestructible. Like one of the problems with like Mind Stone-esque things is people get to interact with them, which is way harder than Rampant Growths. But yeah, you get to spend 7 mana, exile a creature you control, and then it, I guess, gets enabled at the beginning of your upkeep, reanimate a creature. So I don't really like this card, but it's probably fine considering the power level of Standard. I'm worried that it's going to be like $100 in paper or something ridiculous because everyone's just going to want this. If it ends up being one of the better cards in the set, which it might be, I don't know. It's a mythic. It's like an iconic card. I have a lot of issues with Universes Beyond, and that's not. This video isn't the time for it, but as we get that out there. All right, let's keep rolling. We got Vigo, Enforcer of okay, I don't need to say the full name. We got Vigo. This is Eddie Brock, I think. Yes. Okay, so this is the Venom guy. On the front, you get to reanimate a 1-drop, and then so 3 mana, 3/3 legendary, and then you can flip it or cast it for 6 mana. You get Menace, Trample, Haste when it attacks. This is kind of confusing. Hopefully I can get it right. You may sacrifice another creature. If you do draw X cards, then you may put a permanent with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield, where X is a sacrificed creature's mana value. Okay. Okay, it's all according to the mana value. I apologize. So if it attacks, you sack your 1-drop, you draw 1 card, you get to put a 1-drop into play. Right? I hope. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong. I'm not going to spend too much time trying to understand this thing. But yeah, so 6 mana Menace, Trample, Haste is pretty damn good. It's good at just beating people up. It's got an extra like bonus text box. I don't think that either of them independent of each other are particularly strong. Like just getting back a 1-drop is not great. Like we've seen Extraction Specialist, which I think is probably a lot stronger than this if you're just acknowledging the 3 mana part because you get the lifelink and you can get 2-drops. But it's a cool card. This one is maybe less exciting than the others to me personally, but we'll see what 1-drops end up being around. And I do think getting to just have this like random dragon, like one of the appealing things about these decks and the way that competitive Magic decks are built and should be built in 3-year Standard is like the curves are really low. So this means I get to put a 3-drop into my deck and have it sort of have a competitive curve, which is like 1s, 2s, and 3s, while still having something to do with my mana if I do get to the 6 mana point. So that's appealing. Is this card the best? I don't know. I don't think it's great, but it's interesting enough. So it's cool design. Next up, we've got some things that aren't loading, unfortunately. Didn't want that to happen. Okay. So, Arachnomania. This is Spider-Verse, I believe. Legend rule doesn't apply to spiders. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, copy it. So this is normally going to be from exile. If you do, you may cast new... You may choose new targets for the copy. If the copy is a permanent spell, it gains haste. Do this only once each turn. I don't think that this is a competitive card. Like, this is just going to get countered or blown up, or you're just going to die. It's cool. I don't know how much all that text matters for, but let's move on. We've got a Jeskai legend. This is Gwen Stacy. So this is a 2-mana 2/1. When it enters exile top card, you can play it as long as you control Nia. So if it lives, it's going to draw you a card most of the time, which is pretty good. Like, you just have a legend. All these legends work with Mox, Amber, Plaza of Heroes, all this sort of like legend package. And then this is just capable of giving you a free card. Like, Mox Amber is a great example of, imagine getting to flip a Mox Amber off this on turn 2. It's really good. And then you get more. So on the back, we have a 5-mana 4/4 Flying Vigilance Haste. So Sarah Angel with Haste. Whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on Nia. So kind of similar to Pia, actually, which was in last standard. Does stuff when you play things from exile. Remove 2 counters from Nia, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. So you want to play this in a deck where you are exiling cards and or putting counters on this. So it's kind of an interesting ask, but also like the base stats on this are pretty damn good. Like Flying Vigilance Haste 4/4 on a thing that is modal is pretty strong. You also just have this sort of like Elvish Visionary-esque 2-drop. I'm not 100% sure how to like harness the power of these modes, but I think it's probably going to be pretty easy to do. This is the type of thing I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe if you Shiko to cast one of these 2-drops, you could choose to play the back. So that means if you play the... You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I apologize. Hopefully you double check the comments to see someone say how this actually works. So I'm not 100% sure. But if this dies, or any of these die, and you Shiko it back, since you can do that with Valky, I assume you can do the same thing in Standard. So maybe Shiko stocks are just through the roof. But this card does look relatively powerful. Again, like most of these modal mythics. All right, we got another one. This is Miles Morales, which is Kren here. 2-mana 1/2. When it enters, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. So, not other, which is noteworthy. This is kind of like a Rish card. This is pretty good value, right? You're getting 3/4 stats on a 2-drop. If you have anything that cares about 1/1 counters, that's obviously appealing. There's the green-white legend from the last set that cares about 1/1 counters, even though green-white's mana is not very good in Standard, which is another one of my complaints about Standard. But pretty decent base rate for a 2-drop. Maybe not the most exciting, maybe not the most flashy, but of course, we've got a back half. 6-mana 4/3 First Strike Haste. Pay 2, put a 1/1 counter on it. Gains Hexproof and becomes colorless until the end of turn. So it can protect itself if you can get a lot of mana. When you do, double the number of each kind of counters on each spider and legendary creature you control. So, I don't know about this one. This one, like I said, like the front half is a fine base rate, and I guess, yeah, being Naya is pretty unappealing. How good is this back half? It's good if you can get a lot of mana, but then, like, if you can get this much mana, is this even worth doing? I think I'm just going to go back to the default argument I made for all of these, which is just that they're going to be better than they look. First Strike Haste is relatively good. It's kind of hard to block, but it does die to, like, a Lightning Strike, and you need 8 mana by the time you're protecting it. So I guess it's always going to... Not always, but most of the time it's going to be a 5/4 that doubles the counter, so it's going to attack as a 6/5. So calling it a 4/3 isn't really fair. Most of the time you're going to put the counter on itself. So yeah, it's pretty big. It's hard to block. It does things. It's a solid 2-drop on curve. I think this card is good. I don't know the deck for it. Like, what we're doing in Standard is so busted now. It's like, you want me to just play like Naya Beatdown? I guess. I don't know. I don't know if this card will see play, but it seems good. I don't know. It's not the most exciting. This one's interesting to me because I can't exactly put my finger on how strong I think it is, but I think it's decent. Maybe in a future Standard. Maybe we'll go back to 2-year Standard, and this card will be an all-star. Through the Omen Path, 8 mana Convoke. At the beginning of combat on your turn, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. The rest on the bottom in a random order. So 8 mana Convoke. So let's assume we're casting this for 5 most of the time in our creature deck. But we have to be making creatures that aren't just elves that are making us mana anyway. I think cards like this, like really expensive things that have Convoked them, are typically just not that good. There's just cheaper cards where you can just play ramp decks. I guess in the context of token generation, like maybe if you play hop to it on 3, and if you play a creature on 2, hop to it on 3, you can play this on turn 4. So you can definitely curve this out quickly, but then you have to have creatures in your hop to it deck, your token deck, and maybe your hits aren't as high. I think there's just going to be a lot of clunkiness and awkward with this. I'm pretty sure that this card is not good. This is Web of Life and Destiny, by the way. Okay, now we have Niche Pinnacle Pariah. This is Dr. Octopus Master Planner. So 7 mana, 4/8, legendary, human scientist villain. Other villains you control get +2/+2. Probably not the most relevant, but it'll maybe come up. Your maximum hand size is 8. At the beginning of your end step, if you have fewer than 8 cards, draw the difference. So this is kind of an Atraxa, right? Like a lot of times you put Atraxa into play and you drew like 6 cards or whatever. 5 or 6 cards. It's very large. 4/8 is huge. It's not close to as powerful as Atraxa. Atraxa had Vigilance, Flying, Lifelink, 7/7. I think it First Strike 2 or whatever. Who cares? And then there's Valgavoth that's already in Standard, and it's insulated to things like Shoot the Sheriff. So I don't think this card really matters. It's cool. Maybe at some point we end up in a format where this is the best fatty, and I could see this being something you want to put into play and you draw a billion cards, and maybe you have extra villains in your deck and you just get to clock them super quickly. Cool design. It's kind of just like a Jin Gitaxias, but without the other mode where they discard their hand. I don't know. Not that exciting to me. It's like a fun card, but not doesn't seem like something that should be played in Standard. Scions of the Earth Spider. This is Cosmic Spider-Man. So Wooburg, 5/5, flying, first strike, trample, lifelink, haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, other spiders you control gain all that stuff. I mean, maybe we can build a spider deck. We have a bunch. I think there's at least 2 Cavern of Souls variants, and they're starting town. So that's 12 5-color lands. I mean, this thing's pretty crazy if you can reliably cast it, and it's possible that that's actually the case. You have Fabled Passage, you have the new sort of shock land coming in, and starting town. I mean, Fabled Passage requires you to play basics, but I think I listed 20 lands. So you could play like 25 lands, or like a handful of 5 or 6 basics, and then you're going to have a 5-color mana base pretty easily. It's going to have issues, of course, but I think you could just do this. So if you want to play a 5-color spider deck, maybe it's legit. There are some good spider cards. When I do the rares, we'll get into those. But yeah, I mean, this 5/5 flying lifelink haste is already like enough. Like the trample in the first strike probably doesn't matter that much. All that being said, Standard's incredibly powerful. It's broken right now, I would argue, or most people would argue. This is going to get bounced by Into the Flood Maw, and you're going to be sad, but in the games where you're racing and those things don't happen, maybe this is something you could do. We saw a little bit of fringe play from the 5-color Legend from Dominaria. This seems similar. Instead of playing a Legends deck, you're playing a Spider deck. So, and then it does give all your other spiders this important text. So this one's probably a long shot, but I would not be surprised. I think the important thing to look at is the mana base that's available. The mana bases that are available. And in such a large card pool, with foundations included, I think you could probably pull off a 5-color deck. So maybe. If you want to try this one, have at it. It's going to cost a lot of wild cards, though, I'm sure. With our Cocoon Keeper. Another thing I want to note is I haven't looked at the current spiders in Standard. I should have done that. But it's possible these cards are stronger than I'm appreciating because there are some random spiders in Standard that are good. I don't actually know. With our Cocoon Keeper, this is Mr. Negative, which kind of has cool art. Not going to lie. So 7 mana, 5/5. Vigilance lifelink. When it enters, exchange life totals with an opponent. If you lost life this way, draw that many cards. So if I'm at 12 and you're at 20, then we flip. I go to 20, you go to 12. So if I'm at 20 and you're at 12, then I lose 8 life and I draw 8 cards. So ideally, you want to have a bunch of life, I guess. This is kind of a weird card where it's a fatty and you sort of want to be beating down, right? But I guess it's a Vigilance Life. Like I don't think I want this card to be good. I think it's a very cool design. I like it. I can't imagine it's actually good. It's probably worse than the Doc Ock niche card. It's always going to be worse than Valgavoth. It is somewhat castable. It's probably going to be disgusting and limited. There's going to be some blowout games that are really frustrating because of this. But, yeah, I don't know. For Constructed, there's plenty of misses here. So that is it for the Mythics. I'll do a rare video. Maybe we'll do uncommons and commons, too. Those potentially will be a little longer. Because I'm happy I spent more time yapping in this one. Because it works out because there's so many fewer cards. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Just wanted to give some insight on the set really quickly. I'm not that enthusiastic about it. Normally I post a lot of decks. Like the State of Standard, the State of Magic, the State of like just Universes Beyond, and the like rights and the cards mismatching, and like the content prospect beyond it all is kind of annoying and frustrating to me. But life goes on. It's not that big of a deal. Could be worse. I hope people enjoy it. Like, if you like Spider-Man, if you like this stuff, if none of this bothers you, by all means enjoy the set. Don't let anyone else take that stuff away from you. But that is it for the Mythics. I think we covered everything here, and I will see you all for the other videos. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you want to see those as they come out, and have a great day. Peace.